Welcome to the Bovine Podcast, where we separate the genetic gold from the barnyard hype. Today, we're tackling a question that'll make you rethink everything you know about breeding champions. What do Kentucky Derby winners and World Dairy Expo Grand Champions have in common? Spoiler, it's not just the price tags. We're breaking down how thoroughbred strategies can turbocharge your dairy breeding program, why genomic selection is the closest thing to a crystal ball, and how to avoid turning your herd into a genetic dumpster fire. If you've ever dreamed of walking the colored shavings with a supreme champion, grab your earbuds. This episode's your blueprint.
All right, welcome back to another deep dive. You know, where we take the stuff you're probably already thinking about and, well, maybe think about it just a little bit deeper. Today we're doing something maybe a little unexpected. We're going to connect two worlds that might seem pretty far apart.
Like really far apart.
Yeah, like a prize Holstein standing proud at Madison and, say, a Triple Crown winner crossing the line at Churchill Downs.
Okay, I see where you're going. Seems like a stretch.
It might, but stick with us. What could the high-stakes world of Kentucky Derby champions possibly, teach a sharp dairy breeder like you?
Well, it might sound a bit crazy comparing elite racehorses to, the pride of your heifer pen.
Right.
But if you really strip it back, the chase for that ultimate champion, whether it's getting across that finish line first on the first Saturday in May.
The Derby, yeah.
Or hearing your own animal called Supreme Champion at World Dairy Expo. Well, it relies on genetic strategies that are surprisingly kind of similar.
That's what we're diving into.
Exactly. We want to explore how maybe adopting some of those well-worn paths from the thoroughbred world, especially their long-standing focus on finding and really using elite genetics.
Yeah.
How that can give you a real competitive edge.
An edge, right. Moving beyond just good cows.
Yeah, helping you breed not just, good cows, but those truly exceptional ones.
Yeah.
The ones that make people stop and look and, boost your bottom line too.
Precisely. That feeling, right. That electric moment when your animal just nails it on the colored shavings.
That's your Derby day.
Totally. And just like those horse folks are chasing that one legendary race, you're aiming for that absolute peak of dairy excellence. Now, here's a thought. Thoroughbred breeding, they've been seriously at it since the 1700s.
Wow, that long.
Yeah. Centuries of figuring this stuff out. That's a huge head start, isn't it? A whole library of lessons maybe we could be tapping into.
That's a really interesting point, like a historical advantage.
Think of it like this. They've been planning matings based on generations of performance data, while maybe some of us are still crossing our fingers a little too much.
Or maybe relying just on what we see. Less on the deep data.
Could be. So let's saddle up, metaphorically speaking, and see what wisdom we can maybe borrow from the racetrack.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So this relentless drive for the best, it really boils down to those basic steps, right? Identifying, then selecting, and then very deliberately combining the most promising genetics you can find.
Absolutely.
Whether you're pouring over a stallion's race record and his pedigree charts.
Or you're on your phone.
Right. Or dissecting the genomic evaluation, looking in that mare dollars, that crucial index for lifetime profit for a bull you're considering. The core goal, it's the same.
Find the best.
Pinpoint those elite animals, the ones with the highest chance of passing on the good stuff, superior traits.
And the thoroughbred world has this rich history. You mentioned the 1700s. Those foundation sires.
Exactly. The Byerly Turk, the Darley Arabian, the Godolphin Arabian. It's actually pretty amazing that something like 95% of modern thoroughbreds trace their male line straight back to the Darley Arabian.
95%. That's dominance. A really tight family tree, like you said.
It is. But it really highlights the power of those early, really influential genetic choices.
It makes you think about our own key bloodlines in dairy, doesn't it? The impact of bulls like Round Oak Rag apple elevation.
Yeah.
Or the whole Hanover Hill prefix influence. We've definitely had our own genetic giants who've left a massive mark on the breeds.
No question. And it's also wild when you think about how far our selection methods have come.
Totally. You hear stories, right? Breeders making decisions based on a quick look at the herd from the Guernsey Farm Road. Literally.
A drive-by appraisal.
Pretty much. And now Now we're all tapping away on our smartphones during milking, diving deep into complex genomic predictions. It's quite the evolution.
It really is. And, the experienced eye, the cow sense, it still matters. Of course it does.
Sure.
But genomics, that was a real paradigm shift for both industries, actually.
Yeah.
Though maybe the timeline and the initial enthusiasm were a bit different.
How so?
Well, the horse genome got sequenced around, 2006? That gave them the map for more targeted DNA marker breeding.
Okay.
But the dairy industry, man, we jumped on genomics with both feet starting around 2009, really embraced it.
Yeah, it feels like it became central almost overnight.
It's become such a cornerstone of modern dairy breeding, hasn't it? It's like it's a transformative technology, kind of like how the rotary parlor totally changed milking efficiency.
That's a great comparison. And the numbers back it up, don't they?
Absolutely. The data doesn't lie. Studies clearly show the annual gain in net merit dollars, that key profit index we talked about.
Yeah.
It practically doubled after genomics really took hold. We went from around $40 a year gain pre-genomics to over $79 a year post-genomics. That's not a small bump.
No, that's doubling your progress. It's a quantum leap, really. You could argue it's one of the biggest advancements in animal breeding, ever.
I think you could.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, and this is what the sources point out, you still find breeders who aren't quite, fully using the power of genomics.
Really? Still?
Yeah. It's kind of like having that amazing top-of-the-line TMR mixer sitting there.
Right.
But you're still just throwing silage over the fence by hand.
Yeah.
The potential is massive, but you got to plug it in and actually use it effectively.
Yeah, you have to commit to the system. And when we talk about those really influential genetics, we mean those rare sires, right? The ones who don't just produce a few good ones.
No, they build dynasties.
Yeah.
Genetic dynasties that echo down through generations.
They lift the whole herd, maybe even the whole breed. It's like the difference between a herd that's consistently hitting 30,000 pounds and one that's kind of struggling around 20,000. Big difference.
Huge difference. And in thoroughbred racing, a name like Tapit is the perfect example of this.
Right, Tapit. Heard the name.
His record is just phenomenal. Sired over 100 graded stakes winners, progeny earnings over $210 million.
Wow.
He broke the single-season progeny earnings record 3 years straight. He's a true cornerstone sire, a patriarch.
That's hitting the genetic lottery again and again. And, in our dairy world, we're seeing that kind of impact now with bulls like Farnear Delta-Lambda.
Lambda, yeah. Big splash.
Being named Premier Sire at the 2024 International Holstein Show at World Dairy Expo, that's a massive deal, a huge stamp of approval.
Definitely tells you something.
He's become kind of the go-to sire if you're aiming for success on those colored shavings.
Right, it seems that way.
It's like the bovine equivalent of striking oil in your back 40. His daughters just...
Well, they dominated the competition this year.
You really did. But here's maybe a critical lesson we can pull from the horse world on this.
Okay.
Building a truly lasting, impactful genetic program. It isn't just about jumping on every hot new genomic young sire that pops up.
Chasing the number? Yeah, chasing the absolute newest, highest number without a bigger picture. It needs a long-term vision, a strategy focused on building those strong, reliable sire lines, not just riding the short wave of the latest genomic superstar.
So it's more than just picking the #1 bull on the list each time.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like investing heavily in the fanciest sexed semen for your heifer.
Okay.
But then completely neglecting the basic nutritional needs of your transition cows.
Yeah.
You're missing the foundation for long-term success.
That makes a lot of sense. You need the whole system working. And that kind of brings us to an interesting point about single gene discovery.
Right, because in dairy, we often work with these complex indexes, right? Balancing tons of traits.
Net merit, TPI, LPI.
Yeah, but the thoroughbred folks, they had this sort of genetic lightning strike moment back in 2010.
Oh, yeah.
With the discovery of what they call the speed gene. Research pinpointed a specific gene variation near the myostatin gene that strongly predicts a horse's best racing distance.
No kidding. Just one gene.
Well, a key variation near one gene, yeah. And what's really fascinating is how clear-cut it seemed to be.
How so?
They found 3 main genotypes. CC horses, they tend to build muscle early, excel at shorter, faster races.
Yep.
Sprints.
Okay.
CT horses, they're more versatile, perform well across different distances.
The all-rounders.
Kinda. And then the TT horses, they generally have more stamina, better suited for the longer races.
Wow, that's incredibly specific.
Right. And it wasn't just some academic paper. It got commercialized almost immediately as the Equinome Speed Gene Test.
So breeders could test their horses.
Exactly. gave them a powerful tool to make more informed choices about breeding, yes, but also about training strategies based on the horse's genetic potential for distance.
Man, talk about a genetic cheat sheet for the racetrack. That's amazing.
It is pretty cool.
Okay.
And while, most traits we care about in dairy milk production, conformation, health, they're influenced by lots of genes working together.
Polygenic, right?
Right. But the speed gene story is a great reminder to keep our eyes peeled for those single gene discoveries that could have a really big impact on our industry too.
Like E248.
E248 beta casein is the perfect example. A single genetic variant that almost overnight created whole new markets and definitely shifted breeding priorities for a lot of people.
Yeah, that changed things fast.
Absolutely. And you have to think, as our understanding of the dairy genome gets deeper and deeper, we could very well find similar markers. Maybe for things like resistance to metritis, or maybe better feed efficiency.
Things that are hard to measure easily otherwise.
Exactly. And the breeders who are quick to adopt those tools, to strategically use them, they're going to gain a significant competitive edge.
Like the early adopters of robots.
Yeah, or activity monitors for heat detection. It's about staying ahead of the curve, leveraging the latest science.
Which leads kind of nicely into market awareness, doesn't it? Staying ahead means knowing what the market wants.
Absolutely critical. Both thoroughbred breeders and top dairy producers understand this inside out. You have got to know what the buyers are looking for.
Whether it's the racehorse auction crowd.
Or your milk processor, or the folks buying your breeding stock. The research is clear.
Yeah.
If you want to produce foals that bring top dollar, you need to think like a buyer. You got to study the auction results, track which bloodlines are hot, figure out the emerging trends. It's a whole strategy.
And the same logic applies directly if you're aiming for success in the dairy show ring, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Breeding for World Dairy Expo. It's not just about making a pretty cow. It's about deeply understanding what those judges are rewarding.
What they're looking for on the day.
Exactly. That ideal package, sound structure, that incredible style, but also, and this is key, the built-in capacity for high, efficient milk production.
The whole package.
The ultimate champion is the cow that, yes, catches the judge's eye on the shavings, but also has the genetic foundation to back it up with great production records and the ability to last.
And this is where maybe some breeders get sidetracked, focusing too much on one thing.
It's a common pitfall.
Yeah.
Maybe focusing too intensely on that extreme show type, that sharpness, and maybe sacrificing some functional traits along the way.
Or the other way around.
Or going all in on production numbers without enough thought to conformation, longevity, health traits. It's like celebrating amazing component percentages, but ignoring the fact that half the herd is limping.
Or having super easy calvings, but the cows just don't milk enough.
Exactly. The most successful breeders, they have a clear, well-defined strategy that lines up with their specific market goals.
Know your target.
Yeah. Are you aiming for those premium prices for elite show genetics? Or is your goal maximizing lifetime pounds of milk solids and components for the bulk tank? You got to decide what your win actually looks like and breed for that.
Right. Now, another difference, historically at least, has been generation interval.
Ah, yes, that's been a big one. Though genomics is really changing the game here too.
How so?
Well, traditionally, horses have had longer generation intervals than dairy cattle. But genomics, it's leveled the playing field and maybe even given dairy a bit of an edge now.
Because we adopted it so quickly.
Partly that, and partly how it lets us identify the good ones so much earlier. Research shows a significant drop in generation intervals in dairy since genomics went mainstream.
Makes sense. You don't have to wait for progeny proofs on bulls anymore.
Exactly. We can identify genetically superior animals way earlier, even as embryos sometimes, and start breeding from them at younger ages. Faster turnover.
And the dairy industry has really run with the reproductive technologies too, hasn't it? AI, ET, IVF.
Aggressively.
Yeah.
We leverage those tools heavily to maximize the impact of those elite, early identified genetics.
So the question for you, listener, is, are you really maximizing these tools?
Right. Are you using genomics and reprotect to shorten your generation intervals as much as possible?
Or are you maybe operating with longer intervals, effectively slowing down your own genetic progress? It's kind of like watching your neighbors adopt all this precision ag technology.
Drones, GPS, variable rate.
Yeah. While you're still kind of relying on, dead reckoning to spread your fertilizer, that difference in adoption, it directly impacts your speed of genetic gain. You see it in TPI, NMY, LPI. It widens the gap over time.
It really does. And, just picking elite genetics. Yeah. Even with genomics, that's still only part of the puzzle, isn't it?
What's the other part?
Strategic mating. Making champions, whether they run fast or milk well, it requires really careful mating decisions.
Not just putting the best with the best randomly.
No, it's about understanding the specific genetic strengths, but also the weaknesses of your individual animals.
Being honest about your cows.
Exactly. And then picking mates that complement those traits, creating offspring that are hopefully better, more balanced than either parent.
Like the horse experts say, right? Choose stallions based on pedigree compatibility and what you need, not just the marketing hype or the stud fee.
That's the wisdom. And it applies directly to dairy. Take a hard, honest look at your cows, your cow families, then pick bulls specifically to address their shortcomings.
So if a family needs better udders,
use a bull known for making great mammary systems. If feet and legs are a recurring issue,
focus there.
Right. Find a bull known for improving mobility and structure. The common mistake, maybe, is just using the highest-ranked genomic bull on everything.
The blanket approach.
Yeah. It's like using the same general antibiotic for every single mastitis case without ever bothering to culture first to see what you're actually treating. It's just inefficient. It rarely gives you the best results.
Yeah, tailored treatment works better.
Precisely. Think about, say, those great Goldwyn daughters. Amazing udders, right? But sometimes maybe lacking a bit in overall strength and body depth.
Yeah, that was the knock sometimes.
So instead of just using the current #1TPI bull on them, maybe you strategically mate them to a bull known for adding strength and power, like Impression or Jabir back in the day.
To get a more balanced package.
Exactly. Creating that synergy, that complementary advantage. It's like focusing on hitting those high component premiums instead of just shipping maximum fluid milk volume. Different goals, different strategies.
Okay, so we've got the genetics, the strategic mating, but that's still not the whole story, is it?
Not even close. You can have the best genetics on paper, but you absolutely cannot expect a champion to just appear.
Needs the right environment.
Needs proper development, meticulous management, absolutely crucial in both worlds. For the racehorses, that means specialized nutrition for performance, very structured exercise programs for fitness, expert handling for confidence.
And for our dairy animals?
It's a parallel path. It starts with great young animal care. Calf raising is fundamental. Then the right nutrition at every single stage, including that critical dry cow TMR.
Can't forget the dry cows.
Never. And then, if you're aiming for the show ring, there's the whole art and science of preparation. Expert fitting, professional clipping and presentation, training the hair.
Managing udder edema? Timing the feed?
All of it. Like that veteran dairy breeder wisely said, even with elite genetics, there is absolutely no substitute for hard work, keen cow sense, attention to detail, and just a passion for perfection.
Genetics loads the gun. Management pulls the trigger.
That's a good way to put it. A genetically superior animal just won't hit its full potential without that dedicated care and management. It's like having the most advanced robotic milking system.
Yeah.
It still needs regular maintenance, skilled oversight, and proper management to actually perform at its peak.
Right. Now, here's maybe a key difference we should touch on. A Derby winner
needs one perfect race, 2 minutes.
Exactly. One flawless performance on one specific day. But a World Dairy Expo champion. Ideally, she represents years of productive life back in the herd.
That's a really crucial distinction. And it highlights why, in dairy, it's so important to balance that pursuit of maybe extreme show type with a rock-solid foundation of functional traits.
Production, health, longevity.
All of it. The truly great dairy champion isn't just the one with the stunning conformation that wins the ribbon.
Although that's nice.
Of course. But she also has that inherent genetic ability for high, efficient, trouble-free production over a long, healthy life. She pins the blue ribbon and fills the bulk tank.
A complete package again.
And, you know, it does raise a bit of a provocative question, doesn't it? Have we, in some parts of the industry, maybe pushed that pursuit of extreme dairy character, that ultra-sharp, angular show style?
Yeah.
Push it maybe a bit too far, to the point where we might be, perhaps inadvertently, compromising some of those essential functional traits.
When cows look maybe too refined, almost frail.
Exactly. When they look like they've maybe been on a bit of a starvation diet to achieve that look, you have to wonder if the balance has been lost slightly.
What's the counterpoint?
Well, the thoroughbred industry's primary focus is, and always has been, performance on the track. That offers a useful perspective. You know, a flashy Ferrari in the driveway looks great.
Sure does.
But it's the reliable, well-built pickup truck that actually gets the hard work done on the farm day after day. You need both, perhaps, but function has to be there.
That's a really good analogy. Okay, let's maybe try to put the traditional versus genomic breeding approaches side by side more directly.
Yeah, we can summarize that. So think about age at selection. Traditional. You waited years for bull proofs, evaluated cows over multiple lactations.
Long cycle.
Very. Genomics. Selection can happen super early, even before birth, for both bulls and heifers. Huge change.
Accuracy.
Traditional relied on performance records, pedigree estimates. Genomics adds direct DNA info, boosting accuracy significantly, especially for young animals and harder to measure traits.
Generation interval, we covered that. Much shorter with genomics.
Dramatically shorter, like 5 to 7 years down to maybe 2 or 3, which directly drives the rate of genetic gain.
It's doubled, roughly.
Yep, using net merit dollars as the yardstick. Even managing inbreeding becomes more precise with genomics. You move from pedigree estimates to actual DNA marker tracking.
Then the traits we select for.
Genomics just opens the door wider. It allows us to put more emphasis on things like health, fertility, feed efficiency stuff that was tougher to select for accurately before.
Okay, so summing all that up, with all these lessons from the horse world, plus the power of genomics, what are the real actionable takeaways for breeders listening right now? What can they do tomorrow?
Okay, number one, absolutely got to be prioritize data-driven decisions. Just like those thoroughbred guys, analyze every bit of data.
We need to do the same.
Yeah. Base your breeding choices on solid, comprehensive data genomics, production records, classifications, not just the latest hype or a pretty picture in a sire catalog. The data is way more valuable.
Okay, what's next?
Second, embrace truly strategic mate selection. Get beyond just using the highest index bull on every cow.
Be specific.
Exactly. Focus on how a specific bull's strengths complement each individual cow's weaknesses. High production cow needs better feet and legs. Find a bull for that specific job.
Got it. Third,
identify and really leverage your own elite genetic lines. Your best cow families. Just like the horse guys did with Tapit's line. When you find those families that just work high performance, healthy, trouble-free, double down on them.
like focusing on your best performing field or crop rotation.
Perfect analogy. Fourth, always keep market demands front and center. Know what your market wants.
Show ring, components, efficiency.
Whatever your target is, align your breeding goals with what the market actually values and pays for. If there are big butterfat premiums, breed for butterfat. It's like adjusting your crops based on commodity prices.
Makes sense. Keep going.
Fifth, harness the power of shortening that generation interval. Use genomics, use repro tech like sexed semen, IVF maybe, to speed things up.
Get faster progress.
Yeah. Using sexed semen on your best genomic heifers. It's like getting 3 cuttings off a fast-growing alfalfa stand versus 1 cutting off slow old grass hay. Faster returns.
Nice one. What else?
Sixth, always strive for that balance between form and function. Looks matter, sure, especially in some markets, but production, health, longevity, they pay the bills.
The show cow needs to milk too.
Absolutely. That county fair champion needs to be able to walk back to the barn, eat like she means it, and milk right alongside the best of them.
And finally,
never forget development. Nurture that genetic potential. All the best genomics in the world mean nothing if the execution is poor.
bad calf raising kills potential.
Exactly. Poor ventilation, letting heifers get overconditioned. It negates the genetics. It's like planting that amazing new corn hybrid in a swampy, low-fertility field. You just won't get the yield you paid for.
Right. Okay, let's shift gears just a little for the final stretch here. Thinking about that bigger picture, how our industry connects, or maybe doesn't connect, with the general public.
Ah, the mainstream appeal question.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to ignore the huge difference between something like the Kentucky Derby and our own World Dairy Expo, isn't it?
It really is stark when you think about it. The Derby pulls in, hundreds of thousands of people, millions watching on TV, many of whom probably couldn't pick a Holstein out of a lineup.
Exactly. While Expo, which showcases arguably the most elite dairy genetics on Earth, remains largely, an industry event.
It's true. The Derby has become this massive cultural thing, hasn't it? It's way more than just a horse race. They've built an experience that draws everyone from, bourbon-sipping traditionalists to TikTok influencers.
Yeah. While Expo, by its own mission statement, is focused primarily on serving dairy farmers, there isn't really that big push for general consumer marketing.
And you see the difference in tactics. Churchill Downs has celebrity announcers. They create trendy mocktails for Gen Z. The fashion is all over social media.
And meanwhile, we're sometimes, debating whether to let high school kids take free pencils from trade show booths. It feels like maybe a missed opportunity.
It really does. Because Expo has amazing stories to tell. The sheer spectacle of the colored shavings, the incredible champion animals, the fact some are worth huge money, the cutting-edge genetics, the family stories behind the cows.
It's marketing gold.
It really is.
Yeah.
But it often feels like it's hidden behind industry jargon and sort of closed doors, kept within the family almost.
Yeah. That observer comment you mentioned about the amazing community feel in the barns.
Right. That passion, that dedication. They said you just want to bottle it up and share it.
And the Derby uses celebrity, uses the whole experience to make people curious, to make them want to be there.
They sell the sizzle and the steak. Maybe we as an industry need to think about, well, maybe stealing a page or two from their playbook.
Before we become irrelevant.
Before the dairy industry risks becoming, as obsolete as yesterday's classification score in the public eye. We need to tell our story better.
Okay, so let's wrap this up, bringing it all back home.
Yeah. The core message seems clear. Whether you're aiming for that Derby win or that Supreme Champion banner at Expo, the basic principles of chasing excellence through genetics, they share a lot of common ground.
And the genomic tools we have now in dairy are incredibly powerful.
Amazingly powerful. And the key is making sure we're fully using them, right? Not leaving that potential on the table. Still using conventional semen across the board when genomics offers so much more precision. Maybe time to rethink that.
And looking to the thoroughbred world, their focus on markets, on elite lines, on strategic mating, there are real lessons there for dairy breeders.
Absolutely. Lessons that can lead to more success in the show ring, yes, but also more profit back on the farm.
So that dream, standing there on the colored shavings with the champion.
It's achievable, especially if you're willing to look outside our usual dairy box, apply some of these cross-species lessons. The genetics might be different, but the principles of strategic breeding hold true.
So the final thought we want to leave you with, our listener, is this. Are you ready to maybe take a hard look at your breeding strategy? To maybe find some inspiration beyond the barn door? And to actively apply some of these ideas to create your next champion?
The colored shavings are waiting, and so is, hopefully, a more profitable, more sustainable future for your dairy.
Thanks for making another deep dive with us.
That's it for this episode of the Bullvine Podcast. If your takeaway isn't genomics today or bankruptcy tomorrow, you might need to replay this one. Head to thebullvine.com for the full article, and while you're there, subscribe to our newsletter because your competitors already did. Got a topic you want us to gore? Slide into our DMs at the Bullvine. Until next time, breed smart, manage harder, and remember, even Secretariat couldn't win races eating moldy hay. This is the Bullvine, signing off from the milking parlor to the winner's circle.